Hey guys, welcome back to The Composed Artist. I'm your host, Stephanie Gaffney. And if you're listening to this episode the day it drops, then we are opening enrollment for my online course, The Wedding Painter's Blueprint, today. I'm so excited. It has been a passion project ever since it was created back in 2023 to launch it live every single year, once a year. And the enrollment period is only open for 10 days. So sign up now if you want to. If you're listening to this after enrollment closes on February 12th, 2026, I'm sorry you missed it, but message us anyway because we may have something sweet for you. But anyway, I have been wanting to record this episode, just kind of a chat between me and you. I mean, aren't all of my episodes kind of that structured like that? But there's a lot of energy. There's a lot of positive promotion-esque messaging that goes out, like when you're promoting something. Of course, if you run a small business, if you sell a product, if you sell your services, if you sell anything, that's the energy. That's what it takes. All like pro. Okay. And there's something very real about like what people are really struggling with. I created the course to serve as a solution for a lot of problems that artists face. Artists like me 10 years ago. When I started live wedding painting, when I started offering live entertainment and live painting as a service, there were no resources for me online. The resources that I leaned on to help structure my business, that aspect of my business, were primarily like wedding painting resources. Not wedding painting. I'm so sorry. Wedding photographer. See, I'm exhausted. It's been a day. Wedding photographer stuff, resources, contracts, courses, workshops, those kind of things. I'm like, okay, a wedding vendor, creative wedding vendor that kind of provides their own hands-on service. Some of this information could pertain to me, right? Could help. And so I leaned on what was available there. Now, wedding painting, of course, is a very different service. Okay. And so there's so much more of a development aspect, the process of creating the painting, the conversations that you have to have are obviously very different than a photographer's. And so I still had to kind of make it up as I went along. I made a lot of mistakes. I didn't ask the right questions. I didn't ask enough questions. I didn't get as much clarity from the clients ahead of time as possible in order for me to do my job as well as possible for a while. I figured it out after years of trial and error. And then I created a resource for artists who want to avoid all those years of trial and error, all of those hardships, those heartaches, the mistakes, the pain and suffering that comes. And being real with you, pain and suffering, tears, fear, a feeling of failure, like all of these things that I had to experience and then learn from and then make changes to avoid, hopefully in the future, real things and that I want to help other people avoid. Okay. If you're an artist who's experiencing a feeling of overwhelm with their business, I can tell you that probably has to do with your systems and how you've kind of set yourself up for success or not on the back end of your business, how you handle inquiries, how you handle payments. I can tell you right now, and we talk about this in the course, and if you want to learn more, email us, please. But one thing that we talk a lot about in the course is my CRM. I use my customer client relationship manager, the software that I use. It's HoneyBook. Okay. I talk about it all the time. We have an ad running on the podcast for HoneyBook. I love it. Would recommend it to anyone. I handle all of my invoicing through HoneyBook. Okay. Every one of my clients, for every service or product that I sell that takes multiple payments or any payments, honestly, everybody has a payment plan option. Invoicing can be broken down on like a standard plan or like a custom plan. And I'm at the point in my career where I have hundreds of clients a year. And let's say they all have my standard four-time payment plan. It's 400 payments I have to keep up with on varying schedules. Thank goodness something like HoneyBook exists to bill those clients regularly. What that costs and to be the platform to I guess manage those payments. Okay, facilitate the payments. What their fee is, what the processing fee is for HoneyBook to handle that, it comes up to be a couple grand a year that I happily just hand over to HoneyBook because that helps me stay organized, and it takes such a stress off of my shoulders of managing payments and payment plans for all my clients, and then reminding them ahead of time, on time. I don't deal with late payments that often. I don't deal with missed payments that often. And if there is an instance where there's a missed payment or a delayed payment, HoneyBook is like on it. They're letting me know, they're letting the client know. We can have a conversation, we can reschedule it, whatever, we can handle it. But it's handled for me. If I was still handling, and this is just one thing, okay, one example of a system that I have in place, okay? If I was still handling contracts through the mail and payments by check through the mail, or like in-person drop-offs in parking lots, I can't imagine still being in business today. I can't imagine being as profitable as I am today, or having a sustainable business that I can like plan into the future with, that can grow with me. I wish I had the resources that are included in the Wedding Painter's Blueprint 10 years ago, but here we are today, and I'm very excited, very happy to offer those resources to artists like you, if you are an artist and you're listening in. Another way that the course is helpful for artists is to help them make better decisions. If you are a studio artist and you do commissions, maybe portrait commissions, maybe landscapes, whatever, you're usually working from a photograph or two if you're clever and it's asked of you, on your own timeline, in your pajamas, in a comfortable situation without being watched. The vulnerability of the creative process can be held sacred in your quiet studio by yourself. And then you're just working with one reference photo, so you can make whatever decisions you want as long as it kind of looks like the reference, if you're working from reference in that way, trying to create something realistic. Wedding painters arrive early if they're smart and look at a room that maybe isn't fully decorated yet. Maybe the tables aren't in the right spots yet. The lighting 100%, I'll tell you this, will be different every hour on the hour throughout the night. And you have to make decisions. So being prepared with the right questions that you ask your client ahead of time, maybe even planning a meeting or a phone call with the planner or the coordinator to ask them specific questions so that you are prepared when you walk in the door. You know where to stand, you know what you're going to be doing, you know at what point you need to begin and how to pace yourself in order to finish by the end of the night, because you have the timeline, you've done research on the venue, you've been in contact with the planner, they know what you need. You can walk in with confidence and you can do the job and feel done and feel accomplished at the end of the night. I leave weddings now, and for the past couple of years, when I leave a venue, very rarely do I feel relieved that it's over. Honestly, I'm exhausted. Of course, it's a long night. It's a task. It's a hard job. It's hard on your body. Of course, my body is tired, but I always walk out the door feeling an adrenaline rush, like a runner's high, like I've just completed a race and I could do it again. That's how I feel every time I get in the car, because I'm prepared, because I have trained myself, practiced a lot over the years, but also other artists that go through the Wedding Painter's Blueprint, artists that have received mentorship from me or other experienced painters, they also leave at the end of the night feeling accomplished, feeling like they had a plan, they stuck with the plan, it came out better than they even imagined, and their clients were happy at the end of the night. And then if they have to make changes in the studio, that was planned as well. That was the expectation. Or if they don't need to make touch-ups in the studio, woo, job's done. Like that feeling is achievable for everybody. So if you are working as a live wedding painter and you're walking out of the venue at night and you feel defeated, or you feel like you didn't get as much accomplished as you planned, you feel like you started off maybe at a good pace, but at some point in the night you were derailed and you weren't able to meet the expectations of the client, what you had talked about. Or maybe you didn't even talk about expectations and you kind of created something different than what they had in mind, and you could kind of tell when you looked at their face when when the painting was revealed at the end of the night. You know what I mean? Like you can sense when your client is like, "Oh, I love it." But there's that element of dissatisfaction and you're like, "Oh, crap." Oh no. And so a big part of this job is client experience, customer satisfaction, and using your skills, using your abilities and your talents to create something that you both feel confident that you and your clients both feel confident in your abilities to create, to execute. Okay. And there's many steps that go along with that. Okay. Creating a portfolio that represents what you can do live. When we talk about creating, like what it takes to build a portfolio like that in the course, being transparent about what you do live versus what you do in the studio. That's a big one. That's something we, of course, talk about in the course, but I'll tell anyone to their face, do not promote a portfolio that you have done in a different environment um, as a live painting portfolio or even a piece. If you're going to share a painting and promote your live painting services, like here's a painting that I've done live, here's something you can have live at your wedding, here's what you can expect from me, and that painting is actually a painting you did in the studio, girl, that's deceitful. I'm just going to tell you that right now with all the love in my heart. Don't do that, because not only is it hard to replicate that style organically in a time setting under that amount of pressure, but your client will know it, but you'll know it and you won't enjoy the process and it just won't end well. Okay. Now I will say, let me say this first before I move on. My very first wedding that I booked was a friend of mine. My client was a friend of mine from like high school. So she knew me and there was a trust developed already. She liked me and she liked my work. So she knew that I could paint something. And so she extended trust in me that I could paint something cool at her wedding. Okay. I had nothing to show her that I could produce a completed painting by the end of the night. She didn't care. Okay. That's a different relationship. The next person who I hired, that's the first person who I hired. The first wedding that I did, and I've talked about this in past episodes, but I'll tell you again, if this is your first time listening to the show, the first painting I ever painted, the first wedding that I ever painted at was an ex-boyfriend. How funny is that? It worked out great. Again, they knew me, liked me, trusted me, liked my work. Him and his mom and his fiance, who is wonderful. Everybody knew that they could trust me to do something cool. Okay. But again, they didn't know what I could do, but there was kind of some magic about that because there was the friend element. There was the know, like, and trust element already established. The next wedding that I booked with a client that I did not know, a bride who found me on Facebook, that took a lot of trust on her part. And I had to show her what I had created in the studio. I had to show her pet portraits, houses. I had done a few portraits from photos, and that was like a stretch. That trust, she really had to trust me. I also showed her other examples of live wedding paintings that had been done by artists around the country, people that I didn't know personally. I know them now because we've been in the industry for so long together. But at the time I was like, look at what other people are doing. Here's what I do in the studio in, X amount of time. And I was honest about it. I bet you I could do something really special for you. Do you like this idea? Let's do it, kind of thing. That was kind of a tangent. I know I'll get back to my point, but I think it's really important to be transparent and to have those conversations with your client ahead of time so that when you walk in, you are prepared. You have a plan for the composition. Okay? That's another thing. When you walk into the room and you paint, you see a room full of tables and chairs and, the centerpieces are being put up and you get started on that. I hate to tell you, but you may waste a lot of time painting detail that you may cover up. Okay. So having a really good, clear, interesting plan for a compelling composition, really important. It also gives you the confidence to make good, wise decisions. I wish every artist knew those things, to ask all the right questions, to walk in prepared with a plan, And sometimes you got to make that plan when you get there, the plan for the composition. I mean, maybe you walk in and you, with the research that you did on the venue, you plan to set up on one side of the room, but in actuality, there's a bar set up in that corner. And so the planner or the coordinator is like, I'm sorry, I have no choice. I have to put you over here by the band. Having the confidence and the know-how to say, I can't be set up next to the band. That's going to damage my eardrums or whatever. That's important. But also having to make a decision on the fly about making a good decision for the painting based on your creative expertise and based on what you think would make for an interesting painting, and also keeping in consideration what the client has asked for. Okay. For example, there's this venue that in New Orleans that I paint at all the time, and it has like a grand balcony and a staircase on one side of the room, and the dance floor is on the other side of the room. Well, one client had requested that the painting be done with the balcony in the background of the painting. So from the perspective of being on the side of the room that the band was on. But I know that when I painted that venue, I set up in the same spot every time. And that spot is on the opposite side. So I'm like under the balcony, kind of. And so being able to prepare ahead of time, being able to take good reference photos, to work from observation as long as I could before having to relocate, things like that. Like knowing what the client wants and then being able to make decisions accordingly, and then also being flexible and low maintenance, to be easy to work with, to be professional, to be friendly, to be a joy to be around. Like all of those are part of the client experience, and it's part of doing your job well. So there's so many things that I struggled with in the past that I really wanted to provide guidance, mentorship, advice, encouragement for artists who are kind of up and coming in this industry. And so if you're one of them, I hope that you're able to learn a lot from the free information that I give on this podcast. A PS, I created the podcast as a way to extend what happens in the course. Okay. The course is very organized. There are over 50 there are 8 modules with over 50 video lessons. And each one of those lessons comes with either an asset, a template of some kind. I include my contract templates, my both live wedding painting and my studio portrait contracts. So there's a lot of value there. Assignments to make sure that not only do you receive the instruction in the video, but you actually implement it and get the practice in so that you can make the progress that is planned for you to have in the course. There is, a live Facebook group, a private live Facebook group, very active every week. It's a lot of stuff, you guys. There's a lot going on, but it's all beneficial. Every week, I give you an opportunity for a challenge. And it's a weekly painting challenge, and there's a reference photo. There's some rules and restrictions to make it fun. And then everybody is invited to participate and do the challenge. You don't need to do them to complete the course, but growth happens. And honestly, it's a really fun experience to be able to all work from the same reference photo and then critique them and then have the conversations about the process of them and what you learned. We also have a lot of live elements in the course, and this is why I launched the course live. Okay. Once a week, we gather together, whoever's available, for a live group critique. Critiques are so beneficial for artists. Being able to take a photo of your piece and then put it up on the proverbial wall. In art school, you take your painting, you hang it up on the wall. Everybody hangs their work on the wall, and then there's a discussion about them. The teacher will lead the discussion, encourage feedback, encourage reflection and thinking, and maybe feedback on certain decisions that were made, ways to improve moving forward. A lot of times the critiques happen. There's a lot that goes on about critiques. In fact, there's an episode, let me find it, episode 31 of this podcast. Go back and listen to it. It talks all about critiques and how they're important, and how critiques for studio critiques how they differ from critiques that we have about live wedding paintings. Okay. There's a lot more to be considered because of the environment, because of the client request aspect of it. There's just a lot more involved. And also because oftentimes the painting that is submitted is finished. It's done. The experience is over. And so the feedback that you provide, it kind of can only apply to paintings in the future, okay, and your process moving forward. In addition, every week we invite an industry expert to come in and answer questions about their area of expertise, whether it's an area of art, a painting, the wedding industry specifically, or creative small businesses. I know that I don't know everything there is to know about everything in the world. Okay. I know a lot about live wedding painting, and I offer everything that I know inside the course and of course in the podcast too. But I know to trust other experts in other areas that I'm not an expert in, like legal or tax or other areas. Like I know I don't know everything, and I'm humble enough to admit that. And so I welcome experts to come in and answer questions, to provide even more value for you, so that it's not just like an echo chamber. Okay, we're bringing in information from the outside world so we can all grow, honestly. And then of course every week we meet for 2 hours for a live Q&A. And during that time, it's kind of a mentoring session. I'm able to answer some of your questions. Some of them are very, personal and specific to each student or member's situation. But we can all learn and grow and evolve based on feedback from those discussions. And then it's an opportunity for me to answer questions about the course to help provide clarity. I knew that when I created the lessons, when I recorded each video, everything that I talked about, all of the instruction, I can't possibly cover all of the information there is to know about all the topics, all the modules, the lesson plans, and everything in 15 to 20-minute long videos. Like there's no way to do that. And so I'm able to dive deeper and go further into each topic in those live Q&As every week. They're awesome. In fact, I can honestly tell you that based on student feedback every year at the end of the course, we send out a survey and we ask for feedback based on like a plethora of things. And one of the topics is if there was an element of the course that you would say was the most beneficial, what would it be? Like, what would be the greatest loss if it was removed from the course? And most people say the live Q&As, the live mentoring. Of course, the video instruction is important because there's clarity there, there's structure. But the live mentoring, there's so much more depth. Okay. So that is why it's included in the course. That's why I look forward to it every week. And again, every member who has joined in the past, everyone who enrolls in this period of time will be welcome again and again as we launch it every year. Every time we meet live, you're welcome to join. And if you can't join for the live portion, you can watch the replay. If you want to enroll now, if you're ready to make the investment and become a part of this, but maybe you don't have the time, maybe you're in school, maybe this is your peak season, maybe you have kids at home and you can't devote time for the live calls just yet. We actually have a student from last year who's expecting her second child any week now. And so she's not going to be able to work, if you will. Like, she's obviously going to have to take a break, but she can sit down and participate in the live calls. Like, there's so much value that you can get later. If you enroll now during the enrollment period, you can watch the videos and you can do the practice work and you can make those big changes in your business on the back end during a slower period of the year for you. Okay. I created the course with your schedule and flexibility in mind. This episode is brought to you by the Wedding Painter's Blueprint. I created the Wedding Painter's Blueprint back in 2023 as the premier resource for artists who are looking for guidance and mentorship and advice on how to avoid mistakes working as a live wedding painter. The course is a combination of video instructions, practice assignments, and small business templates, as well as accountability groups and a Facebook community composed of artists around the world. We meet weekly over the course of 12 weeks for live Q&As, group critiques, and we welcome guest experts to share their knowledge and experience with us. Because this is a guided course, we open doors only once a year, and that window is now. Doors opened on February 3rd, but they're going to close at midnight on February 12th. So don't miss the enrollment window. If you love the information that's shared on this podcast, then you're absolutely going to love the Wedding Painter's Blueprint. Click the link in the show notes to learn more about the course and how to enroll. Don't forget, the enrollment window closes at midnight on February 12th, 2026. If you like the information that's shared on this podcast, you're going to absolutely love the Wedding Painter's Blueprint. Your blueprint to success awaits. The last thing I want to talk about before I wrap this up, and I appreciate your patience with me. A lot of the episodes on this show, if you've been listening, are pretty unscripted, pretty candid. I like to shoot from the hip, but this one especially is pretty impromptu. It's something I've been thinking about a lot and wasn't quite sure how to structure in like a lesson per se, but I did want to put it out there so that you can hear me, you can feel me. One thing I wanted to talk about before we go is like the current economy, the current state of the industry. Okay. In 2020, there was a global event that happened that kind of pushed people to spend more time on their phones, which encouraged us artists and creatives to share our work more frequently and to be more active online, thus encouraging this boom of exposure for live wedding painters. A few artists around the world, myself included, had a few viral moments. And so the exposure of live wedding painting, it just spread like wildfire. Before 2020, we those of us who were working in the industry at the time had to do a lot of selling and educating, and we encountered a lot of, oh, I've never heard of this, or what are you doing? I've never seen this before. Often at every wedding, most people didn't know what on earth we were doing, and so it was really fun to be able to be that first experience that they had watching a painting come together from scratch. Okay, a lot of selling, a lot of educating the audience. And then after the boom of 2020 and 2021, the widespread exposure, more and more people around the world were exposed to the idea, the trend. It became trending to have a live wedding painter. Very cool for us. 2021 was the biggest year of my career. Most weddings, most earnings, a lot of burnout, most burnout. Hard year. 2022 also kind of still going through that burnout, still overbooked, and learning a lot of lessons with that. And of course, we talk about burnout and trying to avoid that, planning for it, recovering from it. We talk about that in the course, just saying. But that was the industry back then. Since then, especially with today's current kind of economic climate, our clients are less, I don't want to say less likely to hire us because that's not true. Okay. There is a very high demand for wedding painters, but not only just any wedding painter. Couples today know about live wedding painting. They've seen it online. They've been following live painters, multiple live painters. So they can kind of compare. They can kind of decide who their options are. They've got tons of options, and they can be more. They're just more educated. They're more educated on the service itself, the process. They know what they want. They know what they don't want. And so, in order to be successful, to be a highly booked painter, you have to stand out from the crowd. Okay. In 2021, a lot of people were jumping on the bandwagon per se. Artists were coming on saying, I'm a live wedding painter too. No, I can do that. I can do that. Hire me, with no training at all. As we all started, right? I'm not going to say I didn't start there 100%. But nowadays, if you're a new artist, if you're just entering the scene now, it's not going to cut it, unfortunately, to just get started based on your word, trust on your word that you could do a good job. Couples know better, okay? They know what style of painting they want. They know what they don't like, okay? So you have to be really prepared. You have to have a portfolio, okay? You have to have confidence in your work. You have to be confident in your pricing. You can't just price willy-nilly based on emotion. You have to have structure, and you have to price competitively in a way that continues to elevate the value of what we offer as live wedding painters. When I created the course, I had 3 people in mind, 3 groups of people. Brides were hiring. I created the course in 2023. Keep that in mind, timeline wise. Brides all over the world were hiring artists based on just a quick search, a local search. Maybe it was a friend of a friend said, oh, I got a friend, right? And then they were hiring this painter. They were paying top dollar, and then they were just really displeased with the painting. And I know this because I can't tell you how many weddings I have worked where a couple has come up and watched me paint for a little bit and then kind of open conversation. And they said, we had a painter at our wedding and it does not look like this. It's hanging, it's propped up in a closet. I swear to God, people have told me that. Like, it was terrible compared to this, right? Which I don't want to happen. I don't want to have happen. I don't want to hear that. I want to hear our painter was awesome. We're so glad we hired them. Yeah, it's different from your style, but oh my gosh, we love it. It's hanging over our couch. My daughter, we got married 5 years ago. My daughter points at the painting and says, "There's daddy, there's mommy. Oh, y'all are dancing. Dance with me." Like, that's what I want to hear from guests who are watching me paint. I want to know that painters are doing an absolutely incredible job, okay, for the brides, for the clients. Because, listen, if like live wedding painting is a trend. This is very important, you guys. Live wedding painting is trending. People want a live wedding painter, okay? A lot of people want to hire a live wedding painter for their wedding. If more and more people, brides, clients, the couple, if they have more and more people have bad experiences and then they get on Reddit or they share with all their family and friends how miserable their experience was, guess what's going to happen to the live wedding industry, the live wedding painting industry? It is going to plummet. And honestly, this leads to the second person I created the course for. It affects my work. I want to keep working. I want to keep being a live wedding painter. I want people to continue asking me to paint at their wedding, wanting that desperately. And if it fails to be a trend in 5 years, I'm going to do everything in my power to avoid that happening because I love what I do. I think it's fantastic and my clients would agree. Okay. So I created the course to make sure that brides all over the world were continuing to receive excellent, like masterpieces. I created the course so that the industry could continue to have a high standard so that people would continue to desire live wedding painters so that I can continue to work. And then also, I should have said this first. It's for the artists. It's for you guys. I created the course so that you have all the resources. I don't hide anything. There's nothing about my business that I do differently than what I instruct my students to do. Full transparency. Where I'm at in my business, I have 4 young children. Okay. And I've been working for over 10 years. This is my 11th year in business. And I have multiple streams of income because I've built multiple facets of my business. Okay. My goals look different than some of my other students who are in their hustle mode, who are trying to book as many weddings as possible. Okay. There's no doubt about that. And we talk about that in the course. I talk about that in my mentoring sessions, in my Q&As. You can ask me anything. Okay. I am fully transparent about where I'm at and how I got there. And I want to help artists get there. Okay. You recently heard an episode with Hannah Grace. She's an artist in Nebraska. She took the course 1 year ago. If you're listening in February of 2026, go back to episode 59, episode 59 with Hannah Grace. She talks about how much her business has changed in 1 year since taking the course, how she's expecting her second child, and how she is fully confident that in the future, if she wants to like reserve a weekend for her family, then she can do that. She feels confident that she's booked enough to earn enough to take time off. And also, if she doesn't want to reserve that date or block off that date, then she's confident that she can book a local wedding. Like that, the confidence that comes with experience and momentum in your business takes a lot of work, but it doesn't take that much time. It doesn't take 10 years. Hannah experienced this growth, this development in her business, this momentum in her business in a year. And you can experience that too. I want this for you. I want to see you succeed. I want the industry to continue to blossom. I want brides to continue to really want a live wedding painting. And I love the job. I think it's the best job in the world. Second only to being a mother to my 4 beautiful children. I think it is the best job in the world. Very challenging, so rewarding. So please check out the Wedding Painter's Blueprint. You're going to continue to hear me talk about it because it is my baby. I pour my heart and soul into it whenever we go through it live. There's so many resources in it for artists. Please check it out. You can email us directly to ask any questions at support@stephaniegaffney.com. You can go back through the history of this podcast and listen to specific episodes that speak to you. The title is pretty descriptive of what we talk about in each episode. We've interviewed countless artists and professionals, including my own SEO manager, Stephanie Morris. Shout out. She's fantastic and she's so generous. There are 2 specific episodes that include a conversation with her about SEO. That can help. A lot of free information on the podcast. Just think about how much further in depth we go inside the course that you got to pay for. Just think about it. Just imagine. So don't wait. Sign up for the course. Ask us about it. I'll give you a tour behind the back end of the course. I want to give you the confidence and the clarity to know that if this is the right decision for you to move forward. And if it is not, that you don't feel any FOMO about not enrolling. Okay. So again, thank you so much for hanging out with me today. Thank you for listening to me ramble on and on about all the things that I want to help you learn and avoid. And I hear my little one crying. So that means it's time for me to wrap it up. Have a good week. I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye for now. Thank you for tuning in and joining us on this journey of artistic exploration, entrepreneurial growth, and personal development. Remember, you have the power to create a life that is both fulfilled and balanced. If you enjoyed today's podcast, please subscribe to The Composed Artist on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. And don't forget to leave us a review. Your feedback means the world to us and helps us reach more creatives like you. Until next time, keep creating, keep dreaming, and keep pursuing that composed life. You got this.